In this video, we're going to talk about another type of inductive argument, the slippery slope argument. A slippery slope argument states that a relatively small first step leads to a chain of related events culminating in some significant effect, much like an object given a small push over the edge of a sliding slope goes all the way down to the bottom. If the first step in the chain of events truly is very likely to lead to the more significant and usually harmful later events, then the slippery slope argument is legitimate. However, more often than not, slippery slope arguments are fallacious because there are relevant differences between the first step taken and the larger, more problematic consequences predicted that may make it unlikely that those further consequences will actually occur. Your book suggests the following form for the slippery slope argument. Premise 1, there is some continuum between x and y, where x is that first small event in the chain, and y is the culmination of the bad predicted consequence later on in the chain. In terms of that continuum, x and y differ only by degree. So the second claim being made in the slippery slope fallacy is this first small step, x, and this last big y step, they're only separated by degree. There's not some change in kind that occurs along the way. Therefore, no meaningful distinction can be drawn between x and y. That's the conclusion drawn, and the further condition usually drawn from this is that because no meaningful distinction can be drawn between x and y, if we let x happen, then we're going to end up letting y happen. Not to make the conversation too political, but by far the most common example of a slippery slope argument occurring in conversation today is the one over gay marriage. The way the slippery slope argument works is that if we legalize gay marriage, then we're set off down a road where we're going to have to legalize different kinds of polygamy and eventually legalize things like bestiality, someone marrying their dog. And it's a very contested matter whether or not this is a legitimate slippery slope argument or this is a fallacious use of the slippery slope. If you type in gay marriage slippery slope into Google, you'll find a whole bunch of articles. A bunch in which it's argued that this in fact is a legitimate slippery slope, and a bunch of others that say nope, not a slippery slope. Whether or not this is a genuine slippery slope argument and not a fallacy will depend on whether or not there are legitimate relevant differences between gay marriage and polygamous marriages and a marriage between a human and an animal. In the case of a human and an animal, the difference between that and gay marriage seems pretty obvious. In the case of a human and an animal, both parties can't consent to the marriage and can't understand what's going on. That seems like an awfully relevant difference between this situation and this one. In the case of a gay marriage between two individuals, though, and something like a marriage between three individuals or even more, it might not be so obvious if there's a relevant difference there. I'll leave that question up to you to sort out for yourselves if you so desire. That's all we got for this one. See you in the